Despite the disappointing results in the Superbike Championship in recent years, Honda isn't throwing in the towel just yet. For 2024, they've decided to revamp their CBR1000RR-R Fireblade SP, and in this video, we'll check out what's new and compare it to the older 2023 model to see if the new blade is worth upgrading to. If we take a look at the key specs, the new 2024 blade has the same peak power and torque as the older 23 model, churning out 217 horsepower at the crank and generating 113 Newton-meters of torque, plus it weighs the same too, at 201 kilograms wet, which also means there is no change to the power-to-weight ratio. But if we take a closer look, while the maximum power and torque remain unchanged, there is a difference in how they reach those numbers. The new blade reaches its maximum power output sooner, with peak horsepower coming at 14,000 RPM and peak torque arriving at 12,000 RPM, 500 RPM earlier than the old blade, which should translate to improved rideability, power, and torque delivery throughout the rev range. To achieve this, the new blade undergoes extensive changes, updates, and revisions within its engine. It's still based on the same DOHC semi-cam valve train, inline 999cc engine, with bore and stroke unaltered at 81mm and 48.5mm. But apart from that, there's a lot of tweaks here and there. The compression ratio increased from 13.4 to 1 to 13.6 to 1. The inlet valves are lighter than last year's, and both intake and exhaust camshafts are reprofiled to tweak duration and lift. Honda also threw in new valve springs and changed the crankshaft pin and journal diameters to save 450 grams of inertial mass. And on top of that, additional weight savings came via updated forged titanium conrads, 20 grams lighter, and a revised crankcase that shaved 250 grams from the 23 model. As for transmissions, it still has the same close-ratioed 6-speed wet clutch transmission with assist and slipper, but new for 2024, Honda shortened the gear ratios as well as the primary drive to further improve acceleration out of corners. Then, the stock Akrapovic muffler that comes standard is also revised, now larger in volume and 5 dB quieter to comply with noise regulation. As for the electronics, the new blade also gets a few tweaks and updates. Starting with the ABS, the new blade now gets a third race ABS mode that deactivates rear ABS and the lean-sensitive input from the 6-axis Bosch IMU. For the ride-by-wire system, it now uses 2 motors rather than 1, with one motor controlling the throttle valves for cylinders 1 and 2, and the other for cylinders 3 and 4. The throttle valves on cylinders 1 and 2 open first to give more refined control and power delivery at low engine speeds, and at higher revs, all throttle valves open together. When you deaccelerate and engine braking, things work the other way. Throttle valves for cylinders 3 and 4 are open, and cylinders 1 and 2 are closed, standing by to open when accelerating again, thus improving the engine braking performance. Traction control is recalibrated to match the new gear ratio, and the ride modes, engine brake management system, and wheelie control were all also updated to suit the new throttle-by-wire system. The quick shifter, launch control, 5-inch full-color TFT instruments, and keyless system are carried over from the previous gen, as well as the Showa electronic steering damper. Notably, there is a new smart redline feature that puts the redline at just 8,000 RPM when the engine is still cold, and as the temperature rises, the maximum revs increase, eventually putting the maximum just past 14,000 RPM when the engine is fully up to temperature. The new blade receives an updated perimeter frame made from aluminum, which is almost a kilo lighter and also has reduced lateral stiffness and torsional rigidity to improve rider feedback through adjustments in wall thickness. There is also another 140-gram weight reduction, achieved by simply using shorter bolts in the engine hangers. For the front suspension, both have 43mm upside-down Öhlins and PX electronic forks, but the latest version has new, third-generation versions that are paired with a new Öhlins TTX36 shock that offers finer adjustment than before. Both the new blade's fork and the monoshock use an internal spool valve structure, which is claimed to improve ride quality and stability through the suspension stroke. The brakes are also new. The new blade's 4-piston Brembo Stylema calipers have been upgraded to the R version, which is paired with a 330mm disc, Brembo master cylinder, and brake lever. Meanwhile, the rear brake retains the same 2-piston Brembo caliper and 220mm disc as the previous model. Tire sizes remain the same. As for fuel capacity, Honda reshaped the fuel tank to improve knee grip and allow for a deeper tuck-in position, which also resulted in a slight increase in fuel capacity by 0.4 liters. Then as for the wheelbase, the new revised frame shortens it to 1,455 millimeters, and regarding seat height, there is no change. It remains the same at 730 millimeters. In terms of ergonomics, in addition to the new fuel tank, Honda also made some adjustments to the riding position to improve comfort. The handlebars are now 19 millimeters higher and 23 millimeters closer to the rider compared to before, while the foot pegs are 16 millimeters lower. As for the bodywork, the new winglets aren't just for looks. Honda says that the more traditional winglet design is actually an upgrade over the multi-layer style. It gives better stability when braking and gripping the front end through fast corners. Plus, it still provides the same downforce as before, but it doesn't weight the steering as much. For color choices, Honda gives you two options: the Grand Prix Red and the Carbon Edition, which is limited to 300 units, comes with a commemorative plaque on the airbox cover and features carbon front mudguards, belly pans, mid-fairings, and winglets that shave off 1 kilogram. And about the price? It's not going to be cheap. The old Fireblade SP model is priced at $28,900, so don't expect the new one to cost any less.